Good afternoon. I'm Charles Lejano. This is One News Now. The Food and Drug Administration has been recently granted the authority for the emergency use of COVID-19 vaccines. Let's get the latest on this from Greg Gregorio. He's reporting to us live from Antipolo City. Greg, can we now expect an earlier rollout of these potential vaccines?
Charles officials say as early as the first quarter of 2021. That's a few months earlier than the May to June initial timeline of the government. Pfizer and Moderna, which are frontliner COVID-19 vaccines, are set to apply for emergency.
All right, we're going to try to circle back to Greg in a bit. Meanwhile, a recent survey shows that more than half of Filipinos are willing to be inoculated against COVID-19. According to the social weather stations, 66% of over 1,200 adult respondents said they want to take the vaccine. 31% are not willing, while the remaining 3% are still undecided on the matter. Malacanang welcomes the result, saying that this is a manifestation of the public's trust in the government. Spokesperson Harry Roque notes that while President Duterte wants everyone to be covered, the vulnerable sectors will be prioritized. The World Health Organization cautions against the use of the antiviral drug remdesivir for treating COVID-19. According to the WHO Guideline Development Group, there's no evidence that the drug is indeed effective against the virus. Remdesivir has received worldwide attention as a potentially effective treatment for severe COVID infections. However, the antiviral drug was found to have no meaningful effect on survival based on new evidence. Davao City reverts to general community quarantine following a surge in COVID-19 cases. This will be in effect until November 30, and the city currently has the most number of active cases in the country, at 1,700 as of Thursday. Its total caseload stands at nearly 5,300, while the death toll has reached 245. Private hospitals have been mandated to increase ward bed occupancy by at least 20%. Aside from Davao City, public health advocate Tony Leachon says COVID-19 infections in Baguio City are also on the rise. We'll have more stories after this quick break. Stay with us. Mabalik-balik eh. Kung ano man yung isang naririnig, tanggalin. Yun know, echoing badly. Nakalagay din eh. Greg? Greg? Who? Greg? Good afternoon.
Hello?
Hi, yan.
Hello?
Better. Greg? Greg, can you hear me?
Charles officials say COVID-19 vaccine may now be authorized as early
So,
as
narinig ba
the
niya
first
ako?
quarter of 2021.
DQ nyo na lang siya.
The
Wala
initial
namang question.
timeline of the government. Thank you, Dija.
Good afternoon. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Charles Lejano. Let's get back to Greg Gregorio for the latest on the vaccines for COVID-19. He's reporting live from Antipolo City. Greg, with this breakthrough, can we now expect
Charles,
an earlier
officials
rollout
say
of potential
COVID-19
shots?
vaccine may now be authorized as early as the first quarter of 2021. That's a few months earlier than the May to June initial timeline of the government. Vaccine frontrunners Pfizer and Moderna are set to apply for emergency use authorization or EUA in the US. China's Sinovac and Sinopharm, as well as Russia's Sputnik V, meanwhile, have been authorized in their countries. With the power to grant an EUA, the country's Food and Drug Administration may now streamline the process of vaccine approval. In fact, the time period is now down to just 21 days upon the application of manufacturers in the Philippines. FDA Director General Eric Domingo assures the public that the stringent process of evaluation will remain. This includes the verification of EUAs provided by the agency's counterparts abroad, such as the US and the European Union. Once the FDA receives the formal order from Malacanang, guidelines on the procedure will be unveiled to the public. The Health Department clarifies that authority is not tantamount to the immediate procurement of vaccines. Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres says they're thoroughly studying all the reports from foreign manufacturers. The updates on COVID-19 vaccines come as the country's infection count reaches 415,000. Over 1,600 new cases were reported today, pushing the number of active infections to above 31,000. The COVID-19 death toll is now at more than 8,000 after 27 more patients died of the virus overnight. On the other hand, a total of 375,000 infected Filipinos have recovered, with 305 new survivors reported today. Charles, the DOH also says that although the conduct of phase 3 clinical trials in the Philippines is not required, it is still better for the vaccines to be tested here. So far, 5 foreign manufacturers have expressed intent to do a clinical trials phase 3 in the Philippines. This includes Sinovac, Gamaleya, Johnson & Johnson's, Clover Bio Pharmaceuticals, and the last is AstraZeneca. Charles?
All right, thanks for that update. Greg Gregorio, live from Antipolo City. The Senate continues its deliberations on the proposed 2021 national budget. For the latest, Marian Enriquez reports to us live from Quezon City. Marian, could you tell us the key points so far from the hearings?
Charles, lawmakers are scrambling to finish deliberating the budget of the agencies lined up today. So far, they've finished tackling the budget for the Information Technology and Defense, as well as for the Office of the Ombudsman, PIDEA, and the Commission on Human Rights. As promised by DICT budget sponsor Senator Panfilo Lacson, the allocation for the National Broadband Program will be increased. The agency proposed 18 billion pesos for the NBP, but the Budget Department only approved 902 million pesos. According to Lacson, the Senate committee reported an additional 3 billion pesos for the initiative. That's on top of the 2 billion peso budget earlier augmented by the House of Representatives. Lacson explained that the competition or the completion of budgetary requirements may lead to a more efficient internet service across the country. Senator Ralph Recto, meanwhile, urged the DICT to address the connectivity issues under the blended learning setup. Senator P. Cayetano seconded this, noting that 95% of students are experiencing unreliable connection. As for the Defense Department, the Senate allocated around 58 billion pesos for the Armed Forces Modernization Program. This after an additional 18 billion pesos was added to its 40 billion pesos initial funding approved by the DBM. The money will be reallocated from the funding of the Basis Conversion and Development Authority, or BCDA. Lacson noted that more than 17 billion pesos from the previous AFP Modernization Fund was transferred to COVID-19 response this year. Meanwhile, senators expressed support for Lacson's proposal to add 50 million pesos for the creation of the Philippine Judiciary Marshal Service. The move is seen to protect judiciary members who have been targets of violence. Charles, the upper chamber is also set to discuss the proposed budget of other agencies. These include the PhilHealth and the Transportation Department. The lawmakers say that they will be finishing the interpellations tonight before they work on the amendments by next week. Charles?
Thank you, Marian Enriquez, reporting live from Quezon City. Officials cite dam rehabilitation and river dredging as some of the solutions to address the flooding in Marikina City. In an interview with the chiefs, Mayor Marcy Teodoro said the Wawa Dam along Marikina River should be rehabilitated. Aside from flood mitigation, Teodoro said it could be an additional source of power for households across Metro Manila.
Ma-clear man namin yung area ng Marikina, ma-rehabilitate man namin yung drainage system, pero yung downstream, kung hindi tama yung alignment,
Backflow.
magbabackflow. Yung Wawa Dam, that's the permanent solution, I think.
The Environment Department, for its part, suggests the immediate dredging of the whole stretch of the Marikina River. In the same program, Undersecretary Jonas Leones said it will increase the river's floodwater capacity during typhoons.
Based on our evaluation, talagang yung Marikina River ay talagang silted na at talagang kailangan na there's a need to dredge this river system.
The Agriculture Department is eyeing to import more rice for next year, citing the damage brought about by the recent typhoons. Farmers are instead asking officials to help them get back onto their feet. Shaila Francisco tells us more.
The country lost 8 days' worth of rice supply to the consecutive typhoons in the past month. Of the 12.3 billion peso damage to agriculture sector, close to 40% are from rice alone. With this, the Agriculture Department admits that the country's self-sufficiency level may lower to 90%, 3% short of its original target. The DA says the country may need to import more rice in 2021 as a solution.
Nakita ninyo severe destruction. So for this year, as I've said, we have more than enough inventory. But this is also a consideration for your next year's projection.
For now, rice supply is seen to last 85 to 88 days. DAR says the first half of the imports will arrive by January or February next year. As early as now, farmer groups are up against the plan. Nakilusang magbubukid ng Pilipinas says the DA should not use the typhoons as an excuse to pursue the policy. The focus, according to the group, should be on helping local farmers get back on their feet as soon as possible to increase supply. Both farmers and fishers group are now demanding immediate action from the government.
Kaya po. Marami na po akong nakita at naikutan kahit po sa Central Luzon, sa Northern Luzon at Kabikulan, humupa na po yung tubig. Kaya po kagyat na kagyat ang kailangan. Una po, ulitin ko, binhi, agricultural production subsidy, kailangan po ay i-rehabilitate yung mga malalawak na sakahin. Hindi po ang solusyon ay importasyon.
Ang kailangan talaga dito yung suporta, no? Para matiyak natin na magiging maganda at maayos yung produksyon natin, para matiyak natin na masuportahan yung kakulangan o yung naging epekto nitong bagyong nagdaan doon sa ating pagkain.
The DA explains that typhoon-hit areas may only be able to start planting again by mid-December.
Kailangan natin masyadong isugal kasi we need to be guided by the pag-asa forecast. Kung sabihin nila wala ng bagyo, pwede nang mag-land preparation agad.
The DA also assures farmers that the distribution of aid is underway. Aside from seeds and fertilizers, farmers in typhoon-hit provinces will be given an indemnity worth 10,000 to 15,000 pesos as long as they are enrolled in the registry system for basic sectors in agriculture. Excess tariff worth 6 billion pesos from the Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund will also be given to 1.1 million rice farmers tilling 1 hectare and below. 5,000 peso worth of cash and food assistance, meanwhile, will be given to both rice and non-rice farmers under the Bayanihan 2. Shaila Francisco, VR1 News.
Local officials in typhoon-hit Laguna fear that the situation will not improve until Christmas. To give us details, JC Cosico joins us live from Calamba. JC, what are we hearing from some of the residents there?
Charles, more than a week after the wrath of Typhoon Ulysses, parts of the so-called hot spring capital, Barangay Pansol in Calamba, Laguna, are still submerged in floods. Residents are seen wading through waist-deep floods or using boats to go on with their daily lives. With their homes submerged in floods, some say going to the toilet is a challenge. For one, what used to be a field now appears to be connected to the Laguna Lake after it overflowed during the onslaught of Ulysses. In Purok 5, around 400 hot spring resorts had to stop operations. Pools are now filled with flood water. Resort caretakers lament the damage to their livelihood, especially that the pandemic has also taken a toll on their business. Local officials fear the situation might last until Christmas or even beyond. They say bridges are now being built to aid affected residents. Here's part of our interview with the LGU and some residents.
Tuwing itong babaha po, ang hirap po sa CR. Kaya po yung anak ko, nandun po muna ngayon sa apartment ng dalawang anak ko.
Kung hihigupin yung tubig, wala rin hong pupuntahan. Kasi the Laguna Lake is the catch basins po ng ating ng lalawigan. So talaga pong medyo mahihirapan ho dyan.
Charles, the LGU says 10 barangays here in Calamba are still submerged in floods. Now, portals are ready to be delivered in barangays needing them. At least 10,000 individuals are affected by the typhoon here in Calamba, but at least or more than half of them are still in evacuation centers. Back to you.
Thanks, JC. That was JC Cosico reporting live from Laguna. For more updates, visit News 5, the Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. And you can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. We are One News.